Hello, my name is Rebecca Richardson, but most people call me Becky, and welcome to part 2 of ranking the Shadowhunter Chronicles characters. If you watch me do this with all of the male characters, then you know what's happening, you know how stressful that video was for me. That was about 5 seconds ago, we're about to do it again, so same energy in this video. But if you haven't seen that one, we're going to rank all of the female characters of the Shadowhunter Chronicles from favourite to least favourite, probably in rows of 3, so they all fit in, because we learned in the last one that they do not just all fit in singularly, because there's very little space here. However, there is less female characters, noticeably actually, than there were males. Take from that what you like. Same as last time. These are all characters that I chose because they're people I remember well enough to have an opinion on them. Characters who I forgot existed and then was like, oh yeah, they were a thing, or characters that I don't remember anywhere near enough of aren't on here because I didn't think that was fair, because I don't really have a strong opinion on them, so I can't really be judging them against characters that I do have a strong opinion on. So everybody here is somebody who I feel I can actually make an opinion on and rank. Obviously. Like I said, there are less here, so this shouldn't take as long as it took last time, and also I've learned from my mistakes and I now know what we need to do. Can't make the post-it notes any more sticky, so that's still going to be a thing, but we're going with them in sets of 3s to fit them in. Again, as I said last time, this is just my opinion. Don't be offended if I put your favourite character last or something. I'm expecting some angry comments about the fact that Jace Herondale was below Asmodeus and Sebastian Morgenstern for the male characters. Honestly, I think my opinions on female characters are actually less controversial than some of the male characters. This may be slightly harder because we don't really have any main villains. I noticed as we were going through it that all of the main Shadowhunter Chronicle villains are men, you know, like Valentine Morgenstern, Sebastian Morgenstern, Horace Dearborn, Malcolm Fade, you know, Mortmain, they're all men, so we haven't got any well, we've got maybe 1 or 2, but other than that there isn't many obvious evil last on my list least favourite characters. Lastly, before we get started, I will apologise again for the camera quality and the sound. That I'm just assuming it's bad because I'm filming on my phone, because my camera is old and won't focus on the wall and what's written on it. I did think the writing would be backwards, but looking at the footage from the last of these videos on my laptop, I actually think it's the right way around, but I'll apologise anyway if it's not. So without further ado, let's start. I'm going to do what I did last time and cluster them, because unlike the men, there isn't any female characters that I know are my favourite, off the top. I'm like the male characters, I have a list of my top 4 that I just know, and it will stay that way and it won't change. My top 4 is permanent, but I don't have that with the female characters, so this could be a bit difficult. I also think my opinions are less strong on a lot of the female characters. I find within the Shadowhunter Chronicles a lot of the female characters are a bit flimsy a lot of the time, and there isn't as much depth, I find, sometimes, as there is in the male characters. I don't know if that's because there's a focus on making the men the broody love interest or something, but I find a lot of the women I can connect to less because they seem to have less of a personality to them. But we'll see. There's definitely someone here that I know I like more than others. I do know who's going to be top, though. That's what I do know. I do know who's 1. And that is 1, Mina Carstairs. Mina's number 1. Try and tell me otherwise. Mina Carstairs is the most important character in the series. Again, I should probably point out, the reason I keep looking down here is because this is where all the post-it notes are with the names. So if you see me hunching over a lot like some long-armed hobbit, that is why. Mina just fell off the wall. We've been filming 5 minutes and we're already starting. So I think I'm going to start by kind of clustering characters that I know will be near the top at the top, and then I'll do the same at the bottom. Alright, so up near the top, kind of clustered to be sorted later. They've all curved upwards, so now they're actually above me, and I feel very short. We have Katarina Ross, Sophie Lightwood, that one there is Charlotte Fairchild / Branwell, depending on your preference. Emma Carstairs, Isabel Lightwood, and Lily Chen. They're all going to be our top characters, which I will actually sort into an order in a minute. But for now, we're going to do the same for the least favourites that I know are definitely in this area. Down here at the bottom, because they keep falling off, this has took me so long, we have Sophie should be up there. Now we have Mrs. Dark, Mrs. Black, Zara Dearborn, Seeley Queen, and Celine Montclair. Just pretending that everybody's still on the board. I think we're going to start sorting them out, and then I can blue tack them as we go. Mina has been blue tacked, that's why she's still there. So when it comes to the top, after Mina, I genuinely don't know. I know these are my top ones, as well as Sophie, who I think's on the floor again. Going from the top, part of me wants to put Katarina next. Because I don't know why, I just really like Katarina as a character, but then I'm like, do I go for Emma? Because Emma Carstairs is, out of the 3 female protagonists, Emma Carstairs is definitely my favourite. So I don't know, my opinions on Dark Artifice's characters were kind of massively affected by Queen of Air and Darkness, because in my opinion it definitely wasn't the best Shadowhunter Chronicles book we've had, and I don't know, I felt it ruined the vibe of the series a bit. There was this really strong vibe in the first 2 books of like, sort of like the sun and LA and all of this like unrequited love, and I really loved the aesthetic we were going with, and I love the characters, and like I'm considering rereading Lady Midnight when I get a chance just to enjoy it again, because I felt like we lost that in Queen of Air and Darkness, and that was like my favourite thing about the series, and so it all kind of affected my opinion on the characters. Then there's the likes of Lily Chen, who I just think is incredibly funny. That's why she's up here. And then we have Charlotte, because Charlotte deserves a lot more attention than she gets from the fandom. I'm rereading Clockwork Angel, and I'm just like, oh my god, how does she not slap Will at least once a day? Then we also have Isabel, who's currently on the floor. I'll get her. Here she is. Isabel Lightwood. Isabel was my favourite female character in the Mortal Instruments, and I just always liked her sass and her like ability to fight in very large heels, and I just thought she was quite a fun character. So I don't know. I think Isabel comes before Emma for me. But I'm still holding Katarina, because I still think, for whatever reason, Katarina, I'm right. I'm just going to work on my gut, and for now, we're putting Katarina there. This is what I mean. With the male characters, there was 4 top ones that I just knew that was how it was going to start. There isn't now. I'm just, like, going with it. But then after Katarina, I think we're going to go Isabel. Isabel wasn't in Queen of Air and Darkness enough. In fact, was Isabel in any of them? It was like we had 90% Clary and Jace in the Dark Artifices, and then just none of the other Mortal Instruments characters showed up. And I was like, okay, where's the interesting ones? People are still falling off the wall, and I'm just ignoring it at this point. Next, I'm going to put Lily Chen, I think, in my executive decision. And then I don't know, Charlotte or Emma. Oh, stay up. I think we're actually going to put Sophie next. Sophie, I didn't really have like a strong opinion on until I started rereading Clockwork Angel. And I've decided she's actually one of my favourites now. So she's going up here. I like her I guess she's just a nice character, and some of the conversations she has with Tessa made me laugh when Tessa's like, oh Will, and Sophie's like, you can do better. Like I just enjoy it. And then we have Charlotte, so then I guess Charlotte's going, where's Emma gone? I made a new Emma because I don't know where the other one went. Now it's Emma or Charlotte. I think we're going to put Emma next. For now, again, I might change my mind. Then we have the cluster at the bottom to sort out, which isn't a cluster anymore. There's one there because the rest are on the floor. The one I do know that's going to go right at the bottom is Miss Zara Dearborn. There we go. There's her. Then we have Mrs. Black, Mrs. Dark, Celine Montclair, and the Seeley Queen. I feel like there was somebody else here, but if there were, then they're not here now. I feel like the Seeley Queen should be quite low because the Seeley Queen's like not nice. So I think she's going to be next. Then we're going to have Mrs. Black because she seemed like the leader out of her and Mrs. Dark as someone who's currently rereading Clockwork Angel. And then Mrs. Dark, and then Celine, who needs blue tack. This is something I've discussed before, and I think this is a controversial opinion. I don't like Celine Montclair just because I don't think having a bad childhood can justify forcing a man to leave his wife and live unhappily for the rest of his life. I don't think there is any way to justify that, no matter what hard past she's had or whatever. I just thought it was incredibly selfish, and to be honest, she also whined a lot. So that's why Celine's down there, because I just thought she was incredibly unlikable, and that the only reason I was supposed to like her was because she had a bad childhood, but like doesn't really work like that. Next we're going to start doing sort of like the meh people, but we'll do kind of the higher meh people first, then the lower meh people. Oh, I wafted my hand in its direction. I also realised I didn't explain why Zara Dearborn's right at the bottom. Just because she's a horrible person and basically murdered Emma Carstairs. Like, she would have died if it wasn't for the whole parabatai curse thing. So she basically murdered Emma Carstairs, and she was also horrible to literally everybody. I think the highlight of, like, was it Lord of Shadows? I think the highlight was definitely when Alec basically called her trash. We're going into this meh section, but like the top meh section. So I've added to this kind of high meh section Drusilla Blackthorn, Christina Rosales, Diana Rayburn, Camille Belcourt, and Livy Blackthorn. Let's just sort them. Let's just get them sorted from there, because I know these are all like the higher rankers at this point, because my opinion on a lot of the female Shadowhunter Chronicles characters are the same, because I find that, like I mentioned, a lot of them have less personality. I'm kind of struggling. I'm just looking at them being like, did I like you more than the other one? Sure. Like, there isn't as much to go off. You know, I like, with the male characters, I was having a lot of ethical debates with myself and being like, but this person does this, but they have these issues, and, you know, this affected them from the past. But with the female characters, I feel like the general thing is just, are you sassy or are you not? That might just be me, but that's probably why none of them are that high ranking in my overall. In fact, there we go, there's something. When I did the male characters like this, the 4 who are at the top are my 4 favourites. Like, none of the female characters are in that top 4. In fact, there might not even be, no, maybe Katarina's like the 5 on that. But the top 4 are all the male characters for this purpose. I was about to say I'm going to put Drew next, but Drew got on my nerves in Queen of Air and Darkness. Like, not gonna lie, she kind of did my head in a bit. And I know she's a child, and like, she just makes a few comments, but like, I know she's a child, so like, I don't think too much into it, because I'm like, she's a kid, all kids do. But obviously we haven't had the wicked powers yet, so I only have 13-year-old Drew to go off, and 13-year-old Drew kind of annoyed me. Christina's up here. Christina bored me. I don't even know why Christina bored me. I thought she'd be one of my favourites, but then she just like, I don't know, I felt like the only say she really had in the majority of the Dark Artifices was, will she be with Kieran or will she be with Mark? Which, I'm not a love triangle person anyway, so I tend to go off the characters in it. But that seemed like all she did. Like, I forgot about Christina. When I was like going through Dark Artifices characters, I always forgot about like her and Kieran, just because I didn't find them overly interesting. She did more in Queen of Air and Darkness, but like, by that point I'd kind of made an opinion on her, which was meh. So like, everybody's meh. Camille's not meh. I like Camille, right? For now, because I've decided out of them Camille is the non-meh one. She's next. No, I can't justify that. I can't. She was horrible to Magnus. So then who? Who is next? Why is this so hard? I can't even really say Livy's next. Because again, Livy wasn't one of my favourites, and she like almost killed Mina in Ghost of the Shadow Market. So we very quickly did a 180 on our opinion of Livy, even if that was a very sudden supernatural mistake of sorts. Every time I go to like be like, oh, Livy, my head's like, she almost killed Mina, and I'm like, exercise now. But everybody on the table is lesser than these ones. Right, for now, Drew next, because Drew is different to the others, which I appreciate. And also she's a child at the moment, so I'm kind of hoping she's going to be pretty cool in the Wicked Powers. Then for now we're going to go Diana, because again, Diana, I didn't really like her. Like, I didn't not like her, I just found her again boring. I thought she was the perspective in Queen of Air and Darkness. Every time she came around I was like, oh, she's not even doing anything, can we get to something interesting? That was Diana for me. So like, she's not a favourite, but we've quickly covered that there's few I actually really like. This is the one thing I'm finding about Cassandra Clare's books, is that this is how I feel about the majority of the female characters, and it's starting to frustrate me, if you can't tell. But for now, we're going to put Diana there, even though, again, might end up getting changed. Diana gets extra points because she cut Horace Dearborn's arm off, even though we don't talk about that. Nobody ever talks about that, because it was such a sudden thing, and then it was never brought up again. I could do a whole, like, video, actually, on things in Queen of Air and Darkness that came up and then were never brought up again. like a strong 10-minute video about that. I think the other main one was Julian self-harming and Ty self-harming, and then it was just never mentioned. That was something that happened. I'm gonna put Libby next. Because if we ignore the fact that she almost killed Mina, I do appreciate her, especially as a ghost, her ability to just kind of get on with it and just deal with the fact that she's dead. And she was like, okay, I guess when she was alive, she was like funny or something, I don't know. This is what I mean. There's very little differing opinion on all of the female characters because the majority of them are all just kind of like, yeah, they were there. Like, other than like these few. Everybody else, I'm just like. So I picked up Jocelyn Fairchild, which is not somebody I thought I'd be talking about this early on. She was pretty whack, I guess, as a teenager. You know, she like joined a cult, got married, had a kid, stole an artifact, ran away, all by like her mid-20s. So like, I suppose she deserves points for that. I think I just need to accept at this point, nobody is particularly overly interesting to me. There's a few that I've still got down, but that I don't feel yet. This is the thing, I'm like, they don't deserve to be that high. However, there is nobody looking at them now that I'm thinking, you deserve to be that high. So I think we just have to like, I did have this issue with the men as well, where I think I just need to stop thinking of it, oh, you're only going in like 10th place, and start thinking of it as like, you're in the meh section. It's one very long meh section. So we're going to put Jocelyn on the wall. Right, so I've picked up Helen Blackthorne, Gia Penhallow, and Rosemary Herondale. So my camera stopped filming again. Is this just a running theme now? The last time we spoke to you, I was trying to work out whether to put Christina, Gia, and Helen on the board, which means that I've been talking to myself for quite a while because I went on about who was going to go where for a while. We eventually decided that Cecily deserved to go before all of them because as much as Cecily was slightly annoying, she was an interesting character, and we've reached a point, I don't know how much of my ranting has been recorded now, but we've reached a point where we're in the nobody's particularly interesting, they're just in the meh section. Then I decided Christina, after that Gia, and then who was even before Helen? Is that Rosemary Herondale? That was who was before Helen. I then talked for quite a while about some of the others we have, so going over that again. I picked up Clary, and then decided Clary should not be on there yet, because Clary was interesting in the way that she was kind of relatable for some teenage girls. However, when I read The Mortal Instruments, she really did my absolute head in, to a point where I almost skipped her perspectives in the later books, just because I found that everybody else was doing cool things and then she was just whining about Jace's absence. And it reached a point where I was just so sick of her. It was like unbelievable. All she seemed to be doing was whining, and I like genuinely very nearly started skipping her perspective, and so I decided that she doesn't deserve to be that high on the list, because nobody else here so far, other than like Diana, but that's not because she annoyed me, it was just because I didn't think she was overly interesting. There's nobody else there who I was like, I want to skip it. Like, there's no other character there who I was like, oh my god, stop talking. So we decided against putting her on for now. Then I picked up Tessa, and then again decided against it because I'm rereading Clockwork Angel. Tessa's again doing my head in just because she keeps saying things and that she probably shouldn't be saying to people, and then getting annoyed when they get annoyed. My favourite of which is the fact that like 3 times now she's tried to tell Will that his parents are dead. And every time Will's like, my parents aren't dead, and gets frustrated about it, she's like, you can't talk to me like that. And I'm like, well, maybe it's if you stop telling him his parents are dead. So then we decided that she's not going up there either, which brought us on to Jessamine, who I was just talking about. Jessamine, I think, deserves to be higher. I didn't like her as a person. This again comes down to this idea of thinking we can justify people's actions based on them having a bad life. The same with Celine. Jessamine's entire justification was like, she's really rude to everybody, but it's because she doesn't want to be a Shadowhunter. And I was like, you know, I could get it if she was just rude to the Shadowhunters, but she was like rude to everybody. To the point it was comical, because she'd like slip in an insult in a compliment. Like, I think at some point she said to Tessa, like, oh, that looks really good against your dull brown hair. And I was like, that was like such a great compliment, but there was an insult in it. I don't know, because as much as I didn't like her as a character, I know a lot of people who did, and I think the fact that people can look at her and then think, oh, she's not very nice, but because of this, this, and this, it can be justified, or other people I know can look at her and relate to her in some way, does she then deserve to be further up? Because a massive issue I'm having at the moment is that there is no complex female characters. We've got like a few here, there, and then everybody else is just meh. But Jessamine is a complex character, so does she therefore deserve to be higher up than I was originally going to put her? Because from a character perspective, I don't like her. From a writing perspective, She's not an amazingly complex character. I still think it's a crap justification, but it's better than some of the others. I do find it a bit disappointing that I'm struggling so much to do this. Like, there's other series that if you were like, rank the female characters, I'd be like, this. Like, I just know, and I could tell you a million things about them. I just find for the Shadowhunter Chronicle female characters, like, do many of them have that much to them, really, outside of, like, I have long hair and I have, like, one singular problem in my life. Like, I'm sassy. Like, you know what I mean? It feels a bit like all the females were created with, like, sim traits. Like, I am a vegetarian, and I am unhappy, and I am gloomy. Like, that's kind of how they feel. So I am struggling to find the more complex ones. I'm looking at who we have left, which there isn't too many, to be fair, because there's less female characters in this than there were the male characters. I think I'm going to put Jessamine on the board. I think we're going to put her after Helen, because the reason I've judged that is because Helen was less exciting, but she was a better person. So we've kind of bumped Jessamine up, but we're not putting her any higher for moral purposes. To just go over who I have left, I'm looking at Julie Bevale, Nen, Nini, the fairy lady, Marisol from not Ghosts, the Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, Aileen Penhallow, Tessa Gray, Maris Lightwood, Maya Roberts, Clary Fairchild. That's it, that's who we have left. So maybe I think working from the bottom is going to be better. I don't know, Maris is a difficult one, because I can't remember the Mortal Instruments well enough to remember how she was. I know that she's, like, great now, like, she's always been fine now, but it's the same as Robert. At the beginning, Robert was a pretty crap person. So, like, do I want to put her that low? Then we've got some that we don't know as well, such as Fairy Lady, Nen, Nini. Well, I said Nen, but it's probably not. You know, Julie, Marisol, those kind of people who are less Maya. Those people who I know less. I'm just going to sit here and go entirely off my opinion of how well I remember them as people, and just entirely on who I prefer. So, like that, if we're just going entirely off that, then Aileen Penhallow, down there, and then above her, Maris Lightwood, which I will go over these in a minute because I know putting Aileen that low is probably quite controversial. Maya Roberts, mainly because I don't remember her well enough, but I remember she was kind of cool, but, like, I don't remember her well enough to put her higher. Nen, Nini, whatever, again, because she was always nice when she was in it, and she sort of did a lot for the characters, but again, wasn't in it enough to justify putting her any higher. And the same for Julie and Marisol, who are going to go above. I felt bad for not including Julie since she, like, you know, died and everything. I was like, she deserves some form of attention. And that leaves us with, oh, Tessa and Clary. That's what we've come down to. That's something. But the final two in my hand, Clary Fairchild and Tessa Gray. I'm surprised this came down to it. Who, out of the two, right, this is a discussion I have with myself quite often, who I prefer out of Clary and Tessa. So we're going to go through reasons why I don't like them and just see which aggravates me the most. I think that's the way to do it. So, Clary, as I've been over, got on my nerves in the Mortal Instruments because I found her very whiny, I found her very judgy, I found she complained a lot, and it reached a point where I just didn't want to read her perspective because she just bothered me. I also didn't think it was a fair choice to, like, give up the safety of the world to save her boyfriend of, like, 3 months. That was a moment where I actually put the book down and had to just, like, put my face in my hands. But not ignoring that, because I'm sure there's some justification for that, she just got on my nerves and I didn't want to read her perspective. Tessa, however, I've never felt like, oh my god, I cannot stand you, I don't want to read your perspective. But she's generally quite annoying at the moment. I'm actually disliking her more now than I did the first time round, which I wasn't expecting. She was a character that I, like, wanted to like, but she's just getting on my nerves. I just find I can't like her that much. Also, she, like, and I know everybody hates it when this comes up, but, like, I wasn't a big fan of the fact that she found out Jem was dead and then she, like, got it on with Will, like, an hour later. Felt a bit, yeah, so this is what I mean. There's reasons why I'm not a fan of either. What matters to me more? Wanting to read someone's perspective or respecting Jem Carstairs? The thing is, I have to like her now. This is, right, what am I going off here? If I was going off, like, now, like the last book, like Queen of Arid Darkness, Tessa would definitely be first, because as a character she's matured really well, and, like, as the books have continued, I've now reached a point where I really like her. I think she's like a great mother. I think that she gets on super well with Kit. I loved all of their bits in Ghost of the Shadow Market. I find her a lot more relatable and a lot better now. I think why I didn't like her in the Infernal Devices is because there was a level of immaturity to her that was annoying in the way that she spoke to other people, but she doesn't do that anymore. She's definitely matured as a character. So going off the latest book, Tessa is definitely the one I prefer, because as much as she did my head in the Infernal Devices, now I really like her. Then Clary, and then all the ones who have fallen down. Oh, I didn't mention why I don't like Aileen. I feel like this video is just me being like, I don't like your favourites. I don't like Aileen because I thought she was pretty cool in like Sea of Glass and like the All Instruments. I liked her, and I appreciated her loyalty to Helen. I just thought in Queen of Air and Darkness, I find her quite loud. I find her quite like brash, and I really did not like the way she spoke to any of the children. I thought she was unnecessarily mean, and it showed a level of immaturity I didn't like. So that's why Aileen is quite low on my list, which I hope isn't something we see, because it felt quite out of character for her to suddenly be, you know, nasty to grieving children. Like, not like nasty, like she was like shouting at them, and I was like, whoa, calm down. Like, also moving Maureen and Celine around, because again, if we're playing the ethics into this, which in this some cases I prefer to, Maureen should definitely be below Celine. Right, that's it. Before anybody falls off, which they definitely will, Marisol looks like she's about to come off. I think that's it. This probably isn't like permanent. There's probably a lot of these that I will change my mind on over and over again, because I find I tend to, especially with the Shadowhunter Chronicles female characters, I'm always changing my mind on them. But for now, in this video, 1 to the bottom, which, how many? There's a lot less than there was the men. I'm not gonna count my masses. Great. But from the top, number 1 to number whatever: Mina Carstairs, Katarina Loss, Isabel Lightwood, Lily Chen, Sophie Lightwood, Emma Carstairs, Charlotte Bramwell / Fairchild, whichever you prefer, Diana Rayburn, Livy Blackthorn, Jocelyn Fairchild, Camille Belcourt, Cecily Lightwood / Herondale again, whichever you prefer, Christina Rosales, Gia Penhallow, Rosemary Herondale, Helen Blackthorn, Jessamine Lovelace, Tessa Gray, Clary Fairchild, Marisol Garza, Julie Baveo, Nen, Nini, Maya Roberts, Maris Lightwood, Aileen Penhallow, Hypatia Vex, Celine Montclair, Maureen Johnson, Annabelle Blackthorn, Mrs. Dark, Mrs. Black, Celia Queen, and Zara Dearborn, right at the very bottom where she belongs. That is it. That is it. I'm going to end before they all start falling off. I probably should stress again, because this stuff came out in this video. This is just my opinion. If you disagree with me, that's cool. This is just my opinion on these specific characters. I feel like there was a lot more controversy in this than there was in the male video. There was a few in there that I was like, people aren't going to like this, but I feel like there was a lot in this one that people aren't going to like. But, you know, that's just how it be sometimes. Thank you for watching this. If you made it all the way to the end, I'm very much looking forward to putting these post-it notes away so they stop falling off my goddamn wall. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye!